Welcome, Chris, to Raw and Cooked Vegan.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Good to have you, man. So the way I like to start these is just ask you a little bit about how you were brought up, like your family's orientation towards diet and fitness.
Sure. So my family, the only person that was ever really involved in fitness when I was growing up, in my family anyway, was my older brother. So he kind of influenced me to get into lifting and exercising and stuff like that. But as far as diet goes, we ate pretty much just typical American diet. You know, meat, a lot of meat, cheese, dairy, all that kind of stuff. Vegetables too, but I mean,
That's
a lot of
cool.
yeah.
How would you characterize your health in general as you grew up? Was it like, colds and flus, but no major ailments of any kind?
I had asthma growing up, and I've gotten rid of that somehow. I don't really know how, but yeah, I would get sick a lot, colds, flu, stuff like that, pretty much every year, and I just thought that was normal. But
Okay.
it's not very. I don't think that's normal anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So the asthma went away before you made any changes to diet?
yeah. The asthma went away. It seemed like after I started exercising.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So at what age did you first become interested in alternative dietary approach?
That was actually pretty recent, just last year. So I was 23, and I had known about vegetarian and veganism and stuff like that prior to that, maybe since I was in high school, so 5, 6, 7 years ago. But I never really considered it for myself. It's something that I wanted to look at because I had seen the videos of slaughterhouses and stuff like that, and it just made me sick and angry. But I mean, unfortunately, I just didn't make the change until recently.
No, man, I can relate, and I think that's common for a lot of people. You kind of have to reach a point where it just becomes, I don't know, something you have to do, and until then, it's not like you can force it.
Yeah, I agree.
So, was there anything in particular that kind of tipped you over that you finally made the change?
Yeah, so my best friend actually went vegetarian and vegan a long time before I did, a couple years before I did. And just seeing the choices that he was making, it made me look at myself and try to, be honest with myself and say, I can't do this anymore. And that was pretty much it. From that point, like I said, it's just you can't do it anymore, so you stop.
Yep. Okay. And when you initially made the change, was it difficult to do? Did it come easily? Was your family supportive, or?
They're pretty supportive. I mean, in the beginning, they're like, "What are you doing? You can eat meat. It's okay. I mean, just have a little bit." But over time, they calm down a little bit, and now they don't try to force that stuff on me anymore.
Okay. And are you still living with family, or are you kind of on your own, or?
I'm living with family right now. Yeah.
Okay. And well, I guess we'll get into this a little bit later. I'll be curious to see how you kind of talk about these kind of things with them. But tell me a little bit about what happened when you made this change in terms of your health and maybe just the ability to make the change.
So it was a little bit difficult for me. I didn't do it all at once. The first thing I gave up was meats, and that was actually pretty easy because leading up to it, I felt like I could start tasting the like the suffering and there's the low quality of how the animals are treated, and so I didn't miss that at all. But then I kept dairy in my diet for quite a while after that because I was scared that I wasn't going to get enough protein or some crazy thing like that, which now I know obviously isn't true, but at the time that's what I was feeling. So
Absolutely.
that part was a little bit difficult. But in terms of health and stuff, I have never felt better, man. I don't get sick anymore. I have like some skin problems that are starting to go away because I'm eating a lot more raw foods, and it's a great overall change. I couldn't have made it any better.
All right. Could you say a little bit about, you gave up the meat for a while before you gave up dairy. Did you notice any health benefits before giving up the dairy? In other words, when you just got the meat out, were there some benefits that occurred?
I felt like I had more energy because I was eating a lot more vegetables and stuff. I just felt like more clean. But the dairy still messed me up pretty bad. I mean, like a lot of us are lactose intolerant, so
Yeah.
It was, that stuff was just, I wish I got rid of that first almost, but, or
Yeah.
both at the same time would have been nice, but it is what it
Gotcha.
is.
Gotcha. And did the eggs go with the meat, or the eggs went with the dairy?
The eggs went with the meat.
Okay. Okay. Very good. All right. And so tell me, how long have you actually been vegan?
Let's see. It's been about 9 months.
9 months. Okay. All right. And I think an interesting thing about you is the name of your YouTube channel, Vegan Strength Project. And can you tell us a little bit about? I know you've been weightlifting for a while, so I assume that you were weightlifting prior to the going vegan. And tell us a little bit about how this has all affected your weightlifting, because my impression is you're still trying to show that there really isn't any. It's probably benefits that you've experienced since going vegan. So talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I just want to, like you're saying, I want to show everybody that you don't need to eat meat and dairy and all this stuff to really get stronger. And definitely my performance seems like it's been increasing since being on a vegan diet. I can train harder, I can train longer if I want to, or I can train shorter, and it doesn't affect me as much. My rest periods, whatever I'm doing, I feel better in the gym. I feel like I'm able to get more work in, more quality work, and
That's
see better results
that's
as a result of that. And
And
actually,
are
oh, sorry.
you a I'm sorry.
No,
Are you a competing power lifter? Or?
I haven't competed in about a year and a half, but going into 2014, I definitely have some plans for competing again.
All right, all right. And tell me a little bit about powerlifting. I have the impression that it's quite a bit different than, say, bodybuilding, and it's perhaps more of a sport. And is there less opportunity for abuse of steroids within the powerlifting community?
I'd say that about abuse of steroids or just use of it in general is I don't know about too much about bodybuilding, so I can't compare the two, but I know there is some steroid use involved in powerlifting for sure, definitely.
Okay.
Um, I wouldn't really consider it more of a sport than bodybuilding, because bodybuilding in some ways is a lot tougher than powerlifting in terms of dieting down and stuff like that, where powerlifters can, I mean, more or less eat whatever they want, and a lot of them do. But it seems like that's changing in powerlifting. They're moving more towards being healthy and lean and building quality muscle instead of just fat.
Okay. Interesting. Um, do you just kind of an aside? Can you talk a little bit about your training schedule? There's kind of a classic weightlifting regimen of, say, 3 days a week. 1 day on, 1 day off. It does. I guess as you get more advanced in powerlifting, you're working specific muscle groups. How does that go down for you?
I pretty much train whenever I feel like it, when I want to, as I can, when I have time to do it. So
Okay.
if it's at 2 in the morning, if it's at 11 in the afternoon, just whenever I can, really. Um,
All right.
yeah.
And do you have any schedule that you follow? Like, do you do certain parts of the body 1 day a week and then alternate, or how's that go?
I typically have like a squat day, a deadlift day, a bench day, and then overhead press day, and in each of those I'm training those movements plus some accessory movements that'll
All
like
right.
help with those strengthening those movements.
Okay. And prior to going vegan, did you ever get any injuries when you were lifting weights?
Oh yeah, I have. I've messed up my shoulder right here pretty bad. Took me out for like a year. Done multiple things to my back where I couldn't get out of bed, couldn't really walk for a week.
Yeah.
So I'm getting over those now and finally on the mend and getting strength back. So
All right. And since you've been vegan, have you had any injuries?
nothing.
Now that's interesting. Now that possibly could be partly attributed to the fact that you've probably improved your form as the years have gone on.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I think that's worth mentioning. No injuries since being vegan.
Yeah, definitely,
All right.
definitely.
So we kind of touched on this earlier, and I wonder if you could talk a little bit about. You said your family's kind of gotten over hassling you about being vegan, but I get the vibe that you feel strongly about this way of living. So how do you share this kind of information with your family? Does it ever get frustrating for you to see people getting sick when you know they don't have to? How do you cope with that?
Yeah, it definitely, when I see my parents take, or like my dad taking medicine for blood pressure and stuff like that, I'm like, man, if you just cleaned up your diet, did a little bit of exercise, you wouldn't need to be taking that stuff. So that's definitely frustrating, and I try to share it with them just by trying to like influence them on what I'm doing. So, and when I cook, I make enough for everybody, so I'll share the vegan food with them, and they love it. They they don't have any problems with it. It's fine for them, but unfortunately, when they cook, they make mostly like meat stuff.
Right, right, exactly.
Hmm.
Um, do you so you do cook? You're kind of a cooked vegan. Have you explored at all the raw approach to veganism?
I have a little bit. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I've seen a lot of people have some really good results on it. So what I'm trying to do is eat mostly raw foods right now. I love cooked food, so it's hard for me to give that stuff up. But
Yeah, yeah.
I definitely see the benefits of raw, though. Definitely.
And would you say that your primary cooked food staples would be stuff like potatoes, rice, pasta, stuff like that?
Yeah, grains and legumes pretty much
Yep.
make up the bulk of it, and cooked vegetables too.
Okay. What's your take on water? Are you drinking a lot of water in addition to the food you're eating?
Definitely.
All right.
Hmm?
All right.
Gotta stay hydrated.
Okay. And how about sleep? What's your approach to sleep?
Sleep, same thing as training pretty much. I get it when I can, as
Yeah.
I can, but sometimes I'll only get 3 hours a day. Sometimes I'll get like 8. So it balances itself out over the week. I think. I haven't died yet. I feel all right. So
All right.
all right.
All right. Can you say a little bit more about this ethical and perhaps ecological aspect of eating this way? Like you said, years ago, you recognized the truth of that, and it took you a while to kind of put it into practice in terms of diet. Um, Along the way, what have you learned about the ethics of eating this way?
I know that in the past, our ancestors may have had the need to be omnivorous, but in our society, at least where I'm at, where you're probably at, in our country and most of like the world, we don't need to be eating that way. And if we don't need to be inflicting pain and suffering on other creatures, then I really don't see the point. I mean, just for a fleeting sense of taste, it's really frustrating to see that, and it seems like even though I feel like the vegan movement is gaining traction, sometimes it just still seems like nobody cares, and the the planet's suffering too, and people don't realize that what we do to the planet, we do to ourselves because everything's connected. And we try to like simplify things by compartmentalizing them in our minds and stuff, and thinking about them separately, but everything is connected. We are the planet.
Amen, man. I love it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's kind of amazing, this disconnect, and it's just so deeply embedded, the habits that people have, kind of cultural, a lot of cultural and I think sentimental connection to these kind of foods.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, absolutely.
all right, could you list for the audience some of the books that were influential for you in making this decision? Maybe some videos or stuff you've watched, not only in veganism but also powerlifting. If you could kind of throw out some titles and some authors that you like.
For veganism, I haven't read too many books on that. I have mostly seen a lot of videos and just posts from my friends on Facebook. Honestly,
All right, that's cool.
yeah, like uh, I can't remember what it's called right now. Food Inc. Food Inc. was one of them.
Right, right.
Um, I've also seen a lot of videos of like just the ethics of animal consumption and dairy and stuff like that. The truth about dairy, all that kind of stuff. Mostly
Right.
just YouTube videos.
Yeah, yeah,
I've also read I'm reading right now Vegan Bodybuilding and Fitness by Robert Cheek.
yeah.
It's a really good book. I mean, even if you're not into bodybuilding, it's pretty motivational and just really encouraging. So I like that book a lot so far.
Yeah, I
And
like that guy. He's got a really good vibe. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think he's doing a lot for the vegan movement. And as far as powerlifting goes, um, I haven't personally read this one, but Starting Strength is generally recommended as a very good book for beginners. Um, the last book that I read on powerlifting was Brennan Lilly's 365 Strong. I'm not sure I don't know if you're familiar with who he is, but he's a top level powerlifter right now, and he's bringing it back to training's got really complicated in powerlifting over the past couple of years, and he's bringing it back to like the old days, 70s, 80s kind of training where guys were just focused on being as big and as strong as possible.
All right. All right. You know, something that there's a lot of information on the net about, maybe you could talk a little bit about it. It's the squat, doing the squat. And, you know, a lot of people screw themselves up squatting. They mess up their knees. Maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the precautions you take, maybe talk a little bit about form with doing a proper squat.
Yes, I think everybody should be squatting. I mean, it's a great movement. It's functional. It's just great all around movement. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of videos on YouTube of how to squat with perfect form. If you want to check out Johnny Candido's YouTube channel, he has some good videos there. Mark Bell has some good videos. Chad Smith has some really good videos. Dave Tate from Lead FTS, they all have good videos on how to squat.
Okay.
And just a couple things to like keep in mind. People should keep in mind when they're squatting is they want to keep this whole core section as tight as possible. So you're gonna have to suck air into your belly and squeeze, and you might even have to hold your breath on the way down a little bit and exhale on the way up so you don't pass out.
Huh.
It's called the Valsalva maneuver. When you do that, when you get all this air in your belly and just squeeze your core, that's going to stabilize you and prevent you from really like rounding over when you get down into the hole, and save your back really
It's
from
interesting.
injury.
So it's kind of like every time you're squatting, it's not just a crunch, but you're using all those muscles in the core.
It's a total body movement.
Yeah.
Everything is tight. From like even I'm grabbing the bar, I'm pulling it down into my shoulders, squeezing my shoulder blades as tight as possible. My abs are as tight as possible. Everything is just super tight.
All right. And can you say anything about the difference? To me, they seem a little bit unsafe, but you sometimes see people squatting with the barbell in front of the chest, and then the one I prefer when I do it is over the shoulders. Talk a little bit about the difference between those two squats.
So it sounds like you're talking about the back squat and the front squat.
Yeah.
Front squat, with the front squat, the bar is in a different position, obviously, so it changes your center of gravity and your balance. So when you go down, front squat, your knees tend to go more over your toes.
Okay.
And a lot of people think that's a bad thing. I don't think that's necessarily true. As long as you're driving through your heels, that's what you want the focus to be on, driving through your heels. So you can, it's a relatively safe movement, but I don't think it's necessary for everybody. It's more for people who are like looking to improve their athletic performance and build up really big quads and just improve like their deadlift and their squat in general. So powerlifters, weightlifters, and athletes, front squat's a really good movement for. But just general population, I wouldn't really necessarily recommend it.
Okay. And there's I guess they used to call them good mornings. I don't know what you call that movement now, but is that
mornings?
Good mornings. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is that movement incorporated into one of your powerlifting movements?
It is. I don't do it all the time, but it's definitely a good hamstring movement.
Yeah.
And some people will use it to they'll use like a heavier weight to teach them how to recover from a squat that's gone bad.
Okay.
And they found it useful. I don't tend to go that heavy on good mornings. I don't think it's that great of an idea, but I think if you use like a lighter weight and just drill your form, work the muscles, that's gonna give the most benefit in my opinion.
Is there an exercise that you prefer for the hamstrings to a good morning?
I like the stiff-legged deadlift because it gets the bar in my hands and it works on my grip strength too. So I'm getting a little bit extra work from a good morning, but I think they're both good movements.
Okay. And with that stiff straight leg deadlift, does it matter does it matter how low the back goes? Because when I do those, I feel like too early my back is starting to round. So I end up not bending that far over. Is that significant? I just try to keep integrity in the torso.
That's exactly right. I mean, wherever you can go, just go there if you start compromising your form, just stop. Okay. And you could gradually work your way down, possibly. And I'm not sure how much of a beneficial effect it's going to have going that much lower, but it just depends on what your goals are, really.
Okay. And one last question, if I can, reverting back to the squat.
Sure.
When you go down into a squat, what does it feel like in your feet? Like you're saying you primarily want to be driving through the heels. Do you feel weight kind of spreading out through the whole bottom of each foot? Or do you feel primarily weight in the heel? Or
It's mostly on the heels and the outer edge of my feet.
okay,
So, like, if this is my heel, and
yep,
the outer edge, this is where the weight's distributed. I'm pushing out on the floor. I'm trying to think about spreading the floor, and my knees follow that. They track out rather than forward.
right.
So I'm putting more of the stress on my hips and glute muscles, which are more powerful for moving big weights.
Okay. And are the toes slightly turned out?
My toes are slightly turned out, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Um, okay, let me ask you, there's a couple of nutrients I want to ask you about, what you've come across or decided for yourself personally. The first being B12.
B12, it's pretty controversial. Some people think that you need to get shots or take pills or whatever. Personally, I don't really know that much about it, and
Okay.
I haven't been taking a supplement. I do have a supplement for it, but I haven't been taking it.
Okay.
Uh, but I know that B12 is like a function of soil bacteria, and I have my own garden out here, so I'm hoping that if I just eat some like dirty, little dirty vegetables out of there, I should be good. But I mean, I'll have to get checked and see if that's actually the case.
Well, you might. You might. I've heard of some people doing that. But yeah, you might want to get tested. 9 months out, it's probably not that big a deal for you yet.
Uh
But
huh.
over time, it can turn into an issue if if you don't have any source of it in your diet. Um,
Definitely.
but so you have your own organic garden. Is that your family's? Is that
I'm mostly in charge of that. I set it all up and I grow everything. But yeah, I share it with everybody.
kick ass, Chris? That's awesome. What do you grow out there?
Right now, I've got some snap peas, some mache, some I think it's called Dutch salad or something like that.
All right.
I have some pepper grass, growing a lot of kale, a lot of spinach, uh, and some other stuff. Just mostly leafy greens this time of year.
All right. All right. Let me shift over to another nutrient. What's your take on vitamin D? Am I right in thinking you're in California, right?
I'm in California.
So you probably get tons of sun. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, we get it from the sun. I don't see the need to like be fortifying all of our food with it and stuff. I feel like I get plenty just from being out and about, but it depends where you live too. You know, not everybody has the kind of weather we have here. So
Right. Right. And I take it, do you do a little bit of cardio in addition to your weightlifting?
a little bit, but mostly the cardio that I do involves weights too.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let me ask you about a third nutrient. See if you've come up with anything on it. Iodine.
Iodine. Honestly, I haven't done any research on that at all.
All right. All
I
right.
don't know anything.
Gotcha. All right. Do you have any idea on average how many calories you eat per day?
I'd say that I'm probably between like 2,500 and 27 or 2,800. I don't track it, so I don't really know, but I'm maintaining my weight around between like 158 and 160. So
Okay.
I think that's about my maintenance.
Okay. And going back a little bit to this transition from eating meat to now vegan, have you noticed some benefits in terms of digestion and elimination, that sort of thing?
Dude, dude, the poop is great on. You know, it's wiping is more like a courtesy, not a courtesy. It's like sorry, I don't mean to be like too foul or crude there, but
Love it. Love it.
yeah, it's 100% better.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, wow, man. All right, we kind of flew through everything. Let's see what else. We didn't really say anything about ecology. Have you looked in at all to some of the benefits? I mean, obviously you're saving tremendous amounts of water by eating this way. Any other ecological things you've come across in your studies?
Definitely the water thing, like you were saying. I know that cattle is like contributes a lot to deforestation and the greenhouse gas emissions,
Right.
which obviously isn't a good thing. And not to mention fishing. Overfishing is a real big problem now. Like we're not going to have any fish in the next couple of years because overfishing and that kind of stuff.
So yeah, yeah. All right. Are there any tips you could give to people who are perhaps still eating animal products, but considering this change, any kind of advice you might give them?
It's not as bad as you think. It's, you'll feel so much better once you just start doing it. Yeah, I don't really like to recommend these things, but there's like fake meat and dairy products out there that you can use to help you transition off of the real stuff, the
Right.
actual meat and dairy, if you want to do that. But I mean, if you want to do it for one reason, do it for your health, because I think that people have an optimal health situation on a plant-based diet rather than eating all this meat and dairy. And if you're not gonna like go full vegan, at least like consider cutting back on what you're doing.
Okay. Thanks.
Because I think we have way too much like heart disease and obesity and stuff like that, and meat and dairy are definitely big contributors to that.
All right. I think I'm going to get cut off here in a second, Chris, but
Okay.
I want to thank you. I'd like to keep going, but thank you so much for taking the time, man.
Thank you too, man. Really appreciate it. It was fun.
And can you say your YouTube channel for the audience?
Yeah, it's the Vegan Strength Project. Just search YouTube and you'll find it.
Okay, and have you got a corresponding Facebook page or website?
Yeah, I have. I'm also on Facebook at the Vegan Strength Project, and the website is theveganstrengthproject.com.
All right, Chris. Thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Take care of yourself.
You too, man. Have a good one.
You too.